Now, if you're a fan of Indian football, recent times have been pretty good. After all, the Indian team ended up winning the Intercontinental Cup. They've shown some good form during the SAFF Cup as well, but now we're well and truly into the business end of the tournament, meaning now it is that time where you cannot afford to lose a match at all. You can't even afford, well, there will be no draws, but you get the message. So in this particular video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be analyzing India's chances going into that semi-final encounter, which is of course going to be taking place against Lebanon, and look at why this is such an important fixture for India, not only in terms of them making it to the SAFF Cup final, but also in terms of, believe it or not, their qualification for the FIFA World Cup. Now, if you're wondering how exactly that is the case, we're going to get to that in just a bit. But first, before we talk about their match against Lebanon, it is worth just quickly looking back at how it is India ended up making it to the semi-finals of the SAFF Cup. Now, they were drawn in a group alongside Pakistan, Nepal and Kuwait. Now, their first match saw them beat Pakistan pretty comfortably. Thereafter, against Nepal, they rotated the side. In fact, Igor Stimac made about 6 or 7 changes in that match, and they were still able to beat Nepal pretty comfortably. Thereafter, they ended up drawing 1-1 against Kuwait, and then what happened was that, well, they ended up making it into the next round. Of course, the Kuwait game was pretty controversial in its own right because it actually saw coach Igor Stimac pick up a second red card, and that 1-1 result actually hurt India just a little bit due to the simple fact that, well, it ensured they didn't finish top of the group, and in theory gave them a slightly tougher draw than they would have had if they had finished on top. But there is every possibility that the Kuwait match could very well actually end up, let's say, becoming a rematch of sorts, could be seen in the next round. How exactly is that the case? Well, that's because Kuwait are on the other side. So if India and Kuwait win their respective matches, you could very well be seeing a rematch in the final. But if India are to make it to the final, they're going to have to get past a pretty tricky opponent in Lebanon. Now, a little bit of history about Lebanon. Currently, they sit about 99th in the FIFA rankings, but truth be told, they're a little bit better than the rankings would suggest. And as coach Igor Stimac has mentioned multiple times, matches like these, the FIFA rankings have little to no meaning in terms of how it is that the result may play out. Yes, ranking wise, Lebanon are just slightly better off in that regard, although this 99 has also now changed because they're now actually 102. But therefore, what this means is that, ranking wise, it can move up and down very quickly with just one game or 2 games here or there. But India have beaten them recently before the SAFF Cup. That was, of course, in the final of the Intercontinental Cup. So India do have some recent history when it comes to, let's say, beating Lebanon, although that recent history as well, it does skew things very slightly better for India. But truth be told, Lebanon have in the history of, let's say, matches between these two, the head-to-head record skews heavily in Lebanon's favor. How so? Because if you look at their head-to-head, they've played 9 matches and Lebanon have won 4 of them. But India have only won 2 games against Lebanon, and the second one, of course, was the last game, which was the Hero Intercontinental Cup final, which India won 2-0. But that 2-0 victory over Lebanon was only their second victory, and not just that, it was their second victory in over 40 years, which meant that really there has been a time when Lebanon have quite comfortably had the wood on India. The remaining 3 fixtures, of course, have been draws, but the weight of history is definitely against, let's say, India in this particular fixture. But aside from, of course, India needing to win this match to get to the final and potentially retain the trophy, there is one very important thing when it comes to the Indian team as far as the FIFA World Cup qualifiers are concerned. How exactly is that the case, you'll ask? Well, in the rankings that were released recently by FIFA, India were ranked 100th on the rankings, whereas Lebanon were ranked 102. What exactly does this mean for the Indian team? Well, it means that in the FIFA rankings, India are ahead of Lebanon, which means that if you're looking at the draws for the AFC Asian Cup and World Cup qualifiers, the teams that are ranked for 1st to 18, they're drawn into pot 1 and 2. So teams ranked 1 to 9, they are drawn into pot A. Teams ranked 10 to 18 are drawn in pot 2. Why is this important? Because if you are drawn in the higher pot, you will more often than not end up evading the tougher opposition. India found that out the hard way during the last time when they had to be taking part in the AFC Asian Cup and World Cup qualifiers. Why? Because India were 19th in the rankings and were therefore drawn in pot 3. spot 3 included teams like Oman and Qatar. Qatar, by the way, at that point were the reigning AFC Asian Cup champions, which means India, truth be told, had little to no chance of making it even into the second round of qualifying, let alone the FIFA World Cup. But if they can win this match, and actually if they win this match, they will be ahead of Qatar once the next set of rankings are released. And not Qatar, sorry, they'll be ahead of Lebanon. And if they can keep that position up, then come the draw for the FIFA World Cup qualifiers, they will be in pot 2, which actually gives them a better chance of making it into not just round 2 of the qualifiers, but potentially the World Cup finals as well. You'd remember that 2026, the World Cup will be seeing an expanded World Cup, so there will be more spots up for grabs. And potentially, if India can not just make it to round 2, but maybe even the World Cup, it'll be a huge boost. But right now, baby steps. Making it to the World Cup might seem a long shot, but if they can actually make it even as far as round 2, the exposure that the sport will get will be great. So this match against Lebanon is not important just in terms of the SAFF Cup, but potentially could have ramifications in the larger scheme of things for their AFC Asian Cup qualification as well as their World Cup qualifying for 2026. Are you excited for this match, and do you think India actually stand a really good chance of winning? You can let us know that in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and don't forget to download the SportsTak app as well. Plus, if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos that we've done, and stay tuned to Sports Today. We bring you all of the latest happenings from the world of sport. For now, from my side though, it's goodbye.